Released by Type Moon in the year 2004 on the PC, Fate's Stay Night would be an adult visual novel that would spark a large and popular franchise. Written and directed by Kanoko Nasu, the game would be one of the longest scripts ever written in the history of games, in terms of word count, putting it on par with the Bible. Its popularity would also spin off several other games of various styles, animes, manga, and merchandising. For characters, the game is mainly told through the perspective of Shiro Emiya and centralizes around his involvement in a magical battle royale to the death. The story is actually split up into three very distinct paths, depending on which of the three female protagonists the player chooses to involve themselves with. For gameplay, as a visual novel, the engagement is mostly at a reading level, and occasionally a decision point will be reached where one option is the correct route and the rest are routes that typically lead to death. Keep in mind, while there are multiple endings and nuances to each path, I will be covering the true ending to each route. This video will cover the Fate route, but please watch the other two paths linked at the end of this video. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with the recapitation. As the game begins in the city of Fuyuki, we see a young Rin Tosaka say goodbye to her father as he goes off to war. However, this is no conventional war, but rather a secret battle between 7 mages for the coveted wish-granting Holy Grail relic, aptly called the Holy Grail War. So serious is the battle between them that battles are usually to the death until there's only one mage left, and unfortunately, Rin's father dies in this 4th Holy Grail War, which is normally every 60 years, but somehow the 5th war is beginning early after only 10 years. Older, Rin is now living on her own, the last of her long magical bloodline, though like other magic users, she must keep her abilities secret in this modern world that doesn't recognize magi. Her family specializes in jewel magecraft, which is transferring and storing magical energy into jewels, for utilization later. For instance, her heirloom necklace that she wears is one such jewel that has an immense amount of magical energy stored within it. Outside her private life of magic study, she lives a normal high school life, though her proud and competitive nature leaves her with a shallow social life, despite her charming looks and excellent performances academically and athletically. This is partly because it's an accepted practice to kill anyone who discovers the identity of a mage, so she chooses not to let anyone get too close to her. As she goes to class, she bumps into several of her classmates, like the mild-mannered Sakura, the cocky vice president of the archery club Shinji, her stern homeroom teacher, and the handyman around the school Shiro. When she gets home, her guardian and part magic teacher Kure leaves a message for her to hurry up and prepare for her role as a master in the coming Holy Grail War, or waive her participation and seek the protection of the church before it begins. The Holy Grail War is a fight to the death between the participating magi, but they are not alone. Each one is a master to a familiar called a servant, whom they must summon and form a contract with. However, only one servant can be summoned, and if a summoner has a focus connected to a particular heroic spirit, they can summon an even stronger servant. There are 7 classes of servants: Saber, Lancer, Archer, Rider, Caster, Assassin, and Berserker. Rin herself is determined to summon a servant from the Saber class, which she considers the strongest. That night, Rin makes every preparation possible to complete her summoning, though botches up her timing, but still succeeds in producing a summon. The spirit in question crashes into her living room, and is a red knight rather unimpressed with Rin as a master. Like all masters, Rin does indeed have a set of command spells on her hand that allow her to control her servant, and are miracles granted from the Holy Grail itself unto its participants. He continues his condescending attitude of begrudging servitude towards Rin until she's mad to the point of spending one of her command spells to demand obedience. While more compliant, the servant reminds Rin not to be wasteful of her 2 remaining spells, which can also be used to allow him to accomplish great or otherwise impossible feats of strength. Still, he has now observed her resolve as well as magical ability, and genuinely regards her with more respect now. When he reveals he's of the Archer class, Rin is openly disappointed, but Archer protests how he'll show her he's no mistake. When asked which heroic spirit he is, Archer pauses, explaining he doesn't know himself, which puzzles both of them. Regardless, with Rin now a part of the death battle, the war waits for its final master to appear before it begins. In reflection, anyone who is a master but loses all 3 of their command spells loses control of their servant and their status as master, and certainly faces death. With Archer's memory fuzzy, he also can't rightly recall his ultimate move, called a Noble Phantasm, that every servant has as a trump card. She shows him around town, as servants can turn invisible to normal people, including the site of the final battle of the last Holy Grail War 10 years ago, now a park in the middle of the city. Archer can feel the overwhelming amount of regret here and likens it to a reality marble. Unlike a magic barrier, which is a field that protects its maker from outside danger, but still based on what's around them, a reality marble is a limited field in which reality is removed and instead whatever the maker desires takes form. Rin is interrupted as her command spell throbs, a sign that another master is nearby. Even though the war has not officially begun, masters can technically begin fighting at any time. The next day, Rin still decides to go to school, as the battles between mages are supposed to take place in secret, so she doubts a surprise attack will come hiding in plain sight. Archer isn't so confident, and to her surprise, Rin notes the next day at school, a magical field is being set up on the school itself. After school, they investigate, and she learns this large boundary field, when complete, will drain the life force from everyone within and claim their souls. Archer confirms that as a spirit, they can feed on souls and mental energy, though they don't usually need to, as usually the magical energy of their master is enough. But if they do, they can become tougher as their magical energy capacity will increase, so stealing energy is an understandable tactic for this war. Rin announces she has no intention of eating the souls of others to win, and Archer seems glad to hear it. As she begins to erase part of the boundary field, she is interrupted by a man in blue armor who recognizes her as a master, and she recognizes him as a servant. Summoning a blood-red spear, he lunges for Rin, who dodges and begins to flee, as she runs and heads for a more open area where she and Archer can counterattack. Archer steps forward and, despite his name, wields a short sword in hand. The fight ensues with both spirits, as Archer is pushed back by Lancer's skill. However, Archer then produces two swords, and though Lancer disarms the supposed bowman dozens of times, in an instant, Archer produces new blades. This confuses both Lancer and Rin, as Rin also thought each servant only carries one weapon that is filled with magical energy, which is the basis for their noble phantasm, and cannot be replaced like Archer's currently doing. Archer figures out what heroic spirit Lancer is based on his fighting technique, and as a retort, Lancer prepares to unleash his noble phantasm and kill Archer. However, everything is interrupted as a student spots them, and Lancer suddenly turns and moves to kill the witness. Rin feels compelled to follow, as even though she knows there cannot be any witnesses, she's always been careful till today since she dislikes involving others. As she finds the student, it's too late as he's been dealt with by Lancer and is dying. She sends Archer to tail Lancer, though notes how odd the student has been pierced in the heart yet hasn't died yet. She recognizes the student as her classmate Shiro, and refusing to let him die, she uses her last resort family heirloom and empty all of its powerful magical energy into reviving him. Returning home, Rin reflects how Lancer revealing his noble phantasm would also reveal his heroic name, which would have helped them, as knowing the true name of any hero lets you know their weapon, abilities, and weaknesses, and thus why each servant hides their identity with their class name until they reveal and use their noble phantasm. To note, a saber has made it to the final fight in the last 4 Holy Grail Wars, hence why Rin wanted one, though sabers, archers, and lancers are generally regarded for their high magic resistance. Another servant to note is the Berserker, who possesses exceptional strength, but no sanity, and quickly drains their master's magic, often leading to their own ruin. Rin suddenly realizes she forgot to wipe the memory of Shiro, which is her way of removing witnesses, and rushes over to his house. She senses Lancer already there, but suddenly there's a flash of white, as now a new, more powerful presence arrives, a new servant that forces Lancer to flee now. However, the new servant now attacks Rin and Archer, nearly felling Archer in one blow had Rin not spent another command spell to send him away instantly. As Rin is easily defeated, she sees it by the hand of the card she wanted, the saber, and as she now waits for her early death. Pausing the story, perspective now shifts to that of Shiro from earlier, where we learn that he doesn't remember too much of his past, only that his family neighborhood were lost to a fierce fire 10 years ago. Though he alone was saved, inside his heart has never recovered from the massive loss. He would be adopted by a man who confessed to being a magi up front, Kiritsugu Emiya, and later Shiro would ask to learn magic from him. He looked up to the Kiritsugu who rescued him, and has since made it his goal to be a man of justice like him. We go back in time a month, as Shiro is now living alone, though his friend from school Sakura and teacher often help him out in his home. Shiro himself enjoys fixing things, helping others, and is better at archery than even a school captain, though his skill with magic is worse than amateur. He has a secret attraction to Sakura, who is also sister to his classmate Shinji. In truth, Shiro is a good handyman as he assists his repairs with the light bit of magic he can use. He is able to slightly strengthen things and has a knack for being able to visualize the structure of things and reproduce them in his mind. That night, he runs into a strange silver-haired girl who warns him to summon something soon, else he'll die. As he practices his magic every evening as usual, he reflects how he has a few natural magic circuits but no family crest, as he is an adopted son of the Emiya family, and thus their magic crest could not be passed down to him through blood. Thus, as a normal human, he must work to strengthen the few magic circuits he does have with the natural affinity of magic he's compatible with. Personally, he's okay with never becoming a magus, and instead being like his adopted father, whom he views as a hero, who helps people. After a strange dream about swords, he hears about a local murder of a family that were all apparently stabbed by a spear, and that night from work he spots Rin from a long distance with his superior eyesight, surveying the town atop a tower. Please note, it is at this time that the divide between the 3 routes begins. If you would like to continue to the Unlimited Blade Works route with Rin, or Heaven's Feel route with Sakura, please select the appropriate video from the description below. Otherwise, continue watching for the Fate route with Saber. The following day, Shiro senses something strange around the school, but stays late to help with a task. That night, he hears a sound and goes to investigate, only to witness Archer and Lancer dueling. He's spotted during Lancer's noble phantasm, and Shiro finds himself running for his life to no avail, as Lancer catches up to him in the halls of the school and stabs him cleanly through the heart. Strangely, he doesn't die instantly, and instead, a few moments later, Rin finds him, resuscitates him, and leaves. When he wakes, he stumbles home, only to learn Lancer has followed him back, and now moves to kill him again. Determined to at least fight for his life, Shiro reaches for a nearby poster tube and uses his single reinforcement spell to transform it into a metallic sword-like weapon. Seeing this, Lancer mocks and toys with Shiro, during which Shiro makes it to his tool shed. On the floor of his tool shed is a magic circle left by Kiritsugu he never really considered, and as he curses his impending death, a light flashes out, and the 7th servant, one of the Saber class, appears and immediately reacts to save Shiro from Lancer. As Lancer backs off, Shiro sees his savior as a beautiful girl in knight's armor. As Lancer prepares his noble phantasm to kill her, Gaybold, it pierces Saber, but somehow she avoids an instant death, and in doing so identifies the man's true heroic name. However, Lancer's master chooses to recall him, and so he leaves. As things calm down immediately, Shiro is confused to the state of now being a master, but Saber now detects 2 more foes outside, jumping out to greet Rin and Archer. Ambushing them, she nearly kills Archer had Rin not intervened and sent him away. As she bears down on Rin, Shiro halts Saber and is shocked to find out Rin is involved in all of this. Ordering Saber to stand down, she does so under protest, and reading the scene, Rin proposes they all go inside as it's clear Shiro has no idea what's going on. As they talk, Rin quickly learns Shiro knows close to nothing about magic at all. In return for sparing her life, she explains everything to him, including the Holy Grail War and how the Battle Royale game is won. Though Shiro still has many questions, so she takes him to see the priest supervising the whole war. The priest Kurei seems pleasant enough, but smiles strangely when learning Shiro's last name of Emiya. As he clarifies things, Rin points out the war is to determine the last servant standing, so it's not strictly necessary to kill the masters, but it usually ends up happening since the easiest way to beat a servant is to kill the master behind it. In the event a master is killed, a servant lingers until its magical energy depletes, during which they can form a new contract with a master who lost a servant and still has at least 1 command spell. Thus, killing masters is more effective in that regard too. Alternatively, if a master has used all their command spells and thus loses control of their servant, they may seek sanctuary of this church for the duration of the war. Shiro objects that an evil person can get the Holy Grail easily, and Kurei says then the easiest thing is to simply win himself, else another side effect of the war, like the blaze that killed Shiro's family 10 years ago, will occur again. He also mentions the Grail will choose its own master and unworthy ones will be rejected, as he found out personally as he was a participant in the last Holy War himself. He says Shiro should be happy, as his personal wish of becoming a hero is able to come true, as there is indeed a villain in this war that he can defeat. Regardless, Shiro decides to stay in the Holy Grail War, which has now officially begun. As they leave, Rin mentions how Kurei is her second teacher, but originally he was a senior apprentice to her under their same teacher, her father. She also mentions he's untrustworthy, hence why she didn't even tell him what class she has. Still, once they return home, she breaks off, explaining that now that he knows the rules, their enemy's starting tomorrow. Though as soon as she leaves, the small silver-haired girl from before now appears, this time with a giant of a man beside her. She recognizes Rin and introduces herself as Ilya Einsburn, a family name Rin also recognizes. Wasting no time to attack 2 masters at once, Ilya commands her servant Berserker to kill them all. Berserker's powerful, but wild swings are barely parried by Saber, who's already weakened from our first 2 battles already. As things seem grim, Ilya has no problem revealing her Berserker's true name as a legendary Greek hero, Hercules. With nothing he can do, Shiro blocks Berserker's blow with his own body, a maneuver that saves Saber but shocks both Rin and Ilya. As Shiro drops, dying again, Ilya oddly chooses to withdraw Berserker for today, and promises to kill Rin later as she leaves. The next day, he's surprised to be alive, and Rin reveals his body regenerated on its own with his magic, but Shiro protests that he doesn't know any healing magic. Rin then proposes that since her archer is still healing and Shiro is a weak master for Saber, they should form an alliance until they defeat Berserker, and in return for the protection, she will teach him more about magic. Shiro agrees, though to himself he still doesn't have a personal desire to win the Holy Grail. After Rin leaves, he suddenly recalls the wounded Saber, and when he hurries to find her, he finds her instead back to normal, wearing normal clothes. He's immediately smitten, but focuses on getting to know her first. He's also glad she refuses to harm innocents to gain an edge. She also asks her real name, but she politely refuses, explaining that if he knew, because he's so weak, anyone can use magic to pull the information from him. He agrees, and now notices Rin back with luggage explaining she'll be living here with him as per their alliance. At dinner, they agree for now they will continue letting their servants heal while doing their best to gather information on the other 4 masters. They continue living a normal life though at school. Rin lets Shiro know about the life-stealing boundary field being set up. After some investigating, Shiro finds the base point of the field but is discovered by Shinji, who has already surmised he and Rin are masters working together. Shinji proposes working together as well, and leads him back to his own house where he reveals his own servant, Rider. He explains that while his lineage, the Mato family, used to be Magi, the magic circuits in their bloodline died out long ago and they only have their knowledge, while he can't actually use magic. He also mentions only one heir in a household can inherit a family crest, and that's him, so other children like Sakura are either kept in the dark about magic or given out to be adopted by their families. When Shiro asks if he knows of the magic barrier, Shinji says that's not his doing, but yet another master or servant present at their school. Shiro declines a cooperation agreement between them, and Shinji takes it surprisingly well, and even drops that there is a master at Ryudo Temple nearby, where there's a witch collecting souls. At home, Shiro reveals all this to Saber and Rin, mentioning he doesn't immediately believe Shinji's claim of not setting up the boundary field around the school. Also, without enough information, he doesn't want to risk attacking the Temple Master. Saber disagrees on so much inaction, and that night puts on her armor to deal with the Temple Master herself. She is stopped when she encounters an unexpected samurai guarding a temple, who shocks her by fully introducing himself as the assassin's servant Sasaki Kojiro. They waste no time clashing blades in fierce combat, as elsewhere Shiro notes Saber's disappearance and thinks she left the temple herself. A dagger thrown in the night almost catches Shiro as he approaches the temple, which is noticed by Assassin, who withdraws, noting that their third-party visitor is clearly here to witness her techniques and prey on the victor. He mentions his mission is simply to prevent entry to the temple, and so he pulls back for now. As Shiro helps Saber home, his pride erupts on Saber, fighting not only without his permission, but also because she's a girl. Naturally, Saber is a warrior first, doubly so because she's also a servant whose role it is to fight in this war in the first place. Shiro then boldly proclaims he'll fight as well, and while initially rejected, Saber accepts it with the help of Rin, under the condition that Shiro be taught swordsmanship by Saber. And so, with sword training under Saber and magic training under Rin, Shiro gains a better perspective of actual battle, and Rin fixes a lot of the magic dysfunction that has held him back all these years. She explains that after he gets the basics of his strengthening, which enhances the abilities of something, he can also likely learn transformation magic, which adds new effects to something, and then finally projection magic, which can create something. Unfortunately, he's quite bad at everything, though unexpectedly, Archer comes down and offers some advice to him, at least winning his mental battles first before winning in real life. A few days later, Shinji calls Shiro and invites him to speak alone during school, and Shiro complies, though as soon as he does, something is immediately wrong. Suddenly, all of his senses are assaulted as the barrier field trap around the school activates, and Shinji reveals himself, proudly claiming this trap to kill everyone in the school and feed the souls to his rider. Enraged, Shiro attacks Shinji personally, but Rider intervenes now, kicking him out the third-floor window. As he miraculously survives the fall, Shiro thinks quickly and spends one of his 3 command spells to instantly summon Saber here, who was miraculously teleported here, battle-ready. He sicks Saber on Rider, while he opts to confront Shinji himself. Breaking Shinji's arm and strangling him, he forces him to make Rider drop the killing field, though Rider triggers her noble phantasm, creating an opening for herself and Shinji to escape from. Shiro collapses and Rin brings him home, heavily injured but mysteriously regenerating, and more importantly, successful in saving everyone in the school. Still, this is a wake-up call to Shiro never to fight alone and to trust Saber by his side going forward. He chooses not to rest for long, as he knows Shinji must be stopped as soon as possible, and given how he can beat Shinji one-on-one and Saber can beat Rider one-on-one, this is their best chance, provided they strike before Rider can use her noble phantasm again. However, as they search, Rider sneak attacks again, spurring another battle and reveals her noble phantasm to be the powerful gold-bridled Pegasus of the Greek hero Bellerophon. To counter, Saber releases the wind seal on her invisible sword, revealing it to be the legendary gold sword Caliburn, sword of the knightly King Arthur, and obliterates Rider, whose true identity was Medusa, in a single swing with her noble phantasm Excalibur. Shinji, who was hiding nearby, panics and flees as his command seal burns away, removing him from this contest, but Saber collapses after this, so Shiro lets Shinji go as he carries Saber home. Rin reveals Saber has expended a tremendous amount of magical energy, and unless her supply is refilled, she'll disappear on her own. Normally, the Master supplies the servant energy, but Shiro hasn't been able to do that so far. As he rests that night, he has a dream about Saber in her previous life as Artoria, noting how her sword wielded then was different from that of hers wielded now somehow. As he steps out to think on how to restore energy to Saber, he passes by Archer, who says he's finished his recovery, and later when he's alone, Shiro's kidnapped by Ilya, who's been observing and knows Saber is weakened now. Binding him and taking him to her castle outside of town, Ilya reveals she's taken a strong liking to Shiro, and won't kill him like the other masters, provided he devote himself to her. Shiro refuses, even when she admits she killed Shinji after he fled from losing to Shiro. She leaves now to go kill Rin and Saber and leaves Shiro alone. Shiro manages to break his bonds and is about to escape when Saber, Archer, and Rin come in to rescue him, having waited for Ilya and Berserker to leave and following Saber's link to Shiro. However, they're shocked when Ilya is actually still there waiting for them, only having pretended to leave. Rin quietly asks Archer to hold Berserker off until they can escape, and then escape himself, and a confident Archer believes he can do even more than that despite how one-sided the fight looks. As they escape, they stop in a hidden ruin Archer uncovered earlier and wait inside for him. However, after an hour, Rin suddenly feels a bit of pain on her command seal, confirming that despite her orders and his confidence, Archer has been killed by Berserker. She now figures that it'll be a matter of time before Ilya and Berserker catch them now, so it's important they not only fix Saber, but also defeat Berserker tonight. She mentions there is one method they can use to restore Saber's magic energy, since Shiro cannot naturally share his spiritually, and that is for Shiro to physically give her magical energy through sex. As Rin assists them in this necessary intimate threesome ritual, Ilya is slowed by Berserker, who must now stop and heal his wounds. Before falling, Archer delivered 6 fatal wounds to the servant, and would have won had it not been Hercules he was fighting. Still, she moves out with him barely recovered, as Shiro and the others formulate an ambush plan now that Saber has more energy. Shiro himself plans to fight supportively as well, crafting a bow with his improving magic, as he's decent with archery. As Ilya crashes in to kill them, their fight is still a desperate struggle, as Saber has enough energy to fight, but not enough to use her noble phantasm. Even Rin's sneak attack manages to kill Berserker, but Ilya proudly declares Berserker cannot actually die until he's killed 12 times, as his body itself is his noble phantasm, God Hand. Shiro's arrows are useless, but instead, as himself, Saber, and Rin are at death's door, he imagines a more powerful weapon, Saber's Caliburn, at its maximum capacity, and to everyone's surprise, an imitation materializes in his hand. However, even though it's a fake, it's still powerful enough to cleanly slice off one of Berserker's arms before dissolving into nothingness. Wielding his new skill of projection, he forges an even stronger version of Caliburn, and alongside Saber, their combined power strikes through Berserker with a blow so powerful it kills him 7 times over. Slumping down, Berserker's sanity comes back long enough for him to recognize the strength of the pair, as he dissolves away forever. Stunned, Ilya cannot believe her servant is dead, but Shiro insists they spare her life as they all escape the forest together. The next morning, Rin reminds them that all they have to worry about now is Caster, Lancer, and Assassin, and after Berserker, this shouldn't be too hard, though she and Saber both disapprove of Shiro's choice to spare Ilya, and even offer her sanctuary in his home. As time passes and Shiro continues his training, everyone begins to slowly accept Ilya more as she too grows fond of Shiro and wants him to win. Rin also notes Shiro's stunt of projection magic should have blown out multiple nerves and is troubled on how strong and alien his regenerative abilities are. She also notes that she can't help him with his projection magic since she doesn't know it, and it's frankly unheard of to be able to reproduce a noble phantasm like he did and survive, though it likely means he has a natural affinity for swords and should master that. She mentions that she'll stick around here with him and will still fight, suggesting they move their attention to the strange magical energies around Ryudo Temple. As the air between Saber and Shiro is a lot more personal since that night, Shiro begins to wonder what he can do to make Saber happy, since he knows the tale of King Arthur ends in misery. When he asks her directly what her wish is, Saber reveals she's not a true servant summoned by the Holy Grail, but instead asked to become a servant in order to obtain the Holy Grail. Rather, the deal is, she will be a servant until she gets her wish, which is for King Arthur to obtain the Grail while still alive. In order to make that happen, time is stopped for her at her moment of death, and she is essentially immortal until that goal is met. Hence why she can be summoned to multiple battlefields, like the last Grail War. She also notes she is actually not a spirit, but alive, since she is merely frozen in time and never technically died. However, her wish is for her own existence to be removed so that she never pulled the sword from the stone, as she believes her failure means there is likely a better candidate than her who should be selected as king. After this wish is granted, she'll die and will likely become another heroic spirit again, and thus be able to be summoned to fight again anyway. Shiro rejects such a wish, but is interrupted as they are suddenly surrounded by Caster and her army of golems. Though weak, they are numerous, and as they move outside they see Caster is by herself with no master. She confesses she killed her own master and survives by consuming souls, and will still obtain the Holy Grail for herself. She also reveals Assassin has been defeated, and wishes to speak with Saber. However, a man in gold armor suddenly appears and defeats the entire Golem army by himself. Summoning a hail of weapons, each one as unique and as powerful as the Noble Phantasm itself, he obliterates Caster easily, and turns to Saber, apparently familiar with her. Saber is surprised too, asking why the man, also named Archer, is still in this world. He asks her to think on the decision he made 10 years ago, and then leaps away, sparing the group. As the group collects their thoughts, Rin is again amazed at Shiro's healing ability and asks Saber about it. Saber herself doesn't have phenomenal self-healing to that degree either, but when she stops to think about it, she suddenly freezes with an epiphany she keeps to herself. Moving on, Rin deduces from what Saber has explained that this archer must be the winner that beat Saber in the last Grail War and has somehow survived to this day. However, he seems to have a legion of Noble's phantasms, so it seems impossible to determine his real identity. Saber mentions Archer also proposed marriage to her in the last war, but she declined him then just like she still does now. She then suggests Archer may still be around because no one got the Grail in the last war. In fact, it turns out Shiro's adopted father, Kuritsugu, was also Saber's master in the last war, and betrayed everyone by commanding her to destroy the Grail. In fact, Shiro's father was a stone-cold killer, caring little about anyone but his own objectives, much to the contrast of Shiro's own memories. Still, even though she destroyed the Holy Grail, it must still be around because there's still a war with servants present. After everyone goes to sleep, Shiro thinks to speak to the other person he knows of who fought in the last war, Kurei the priest, and heads back to the church. After talking, Shiro learns that there is a way to save Saber from herself and her fate as a servant, and that is by gaining a second life from drinking the water of the Holy Grail. He says that there is a Holy Grail, as it's only a vessel, and if it ever goes away, then the preparer will prepare another one. He then explains the original Holy Grail exists in Utopia, and it's not a cup that received the blood of God. Long ago, 3 magic families, Ainsberg, Mikiri, and Tosaka, spent generations researching how to reproduce it, and succeeded in doing so 200 years ago. And that was the first Holy Grail War, which is a ritual to summon the real Holy Grail to the artificial one. The Tosakas provided the land and the summoning system of servants. The Mikiri, now known as the Mato family, provided the command spell to bind the servants, and the Ainsburns provided the vessel for the Holy Grail to dwell in. When Kuritsugu betrayed the Ainsburns in the last war, they threw down their best trump card, and Ilya, their current descendant, likely has the Holy Grail. When Shiro mentions Archer from the last war is still lingering, Kurei is puzzled and tells him he will investigate that on his own. As he leaves, Shiro admits to himself he likes Saber too much and firmly decides to take her out on a date the next day. He indeed convinces her to go out with him, and while Shiro tries to make her a little happy and persuade her to stay, Saber still doesn't budge from her self-sacrificial mission. As they walk home, Archer interrupts them, still claiming Saber is his, and crushes Shiro to the edge of death, careful not to kill him early, else Saber would disappear. She arms herself and attacks the man, who dons his own armor and allows Saber to fight him. Shiro can see Saber is much better at swordplay than Archer, however, the man then calls on his noble phantasm, Gate of Babylon, and like before, a countless number of legendary weapons pour forth at his disposal. Shiro thinks about how one man can have all the legendary weapons in his lifetime, but then an idea sparks. If the weapons were his like he claims before they became legend through someone else, then it's possible he can have all the weapons. The man agrees with Shiro, explaining that he comes from an ancient time when the world was one and he was a king who had a perfect collection of every treasure in the world till the time he died. After his death, contents of his treasury spread throughout the world, eventually becoming noble phantasms, yet it's still true they all once belonged to him, mankind's oldest king of heroes and original legend, Gilgamesh. Undeterred, Saber prepares to use Excalibur, which prompts Gilgamesh to produce his own original personal weapon, Ea, to match. Saber unleashes her noble phantasm, only for her to be easily overwhelmed and blown away by Gilgamesh. With Saber defeated, a broken Shiro forces himself to stand up and produce yet again his own duplicate Caliburn, but this time the copy is so good it even retains the will and memory of the original, able to counter Gilgamesh's blow on its own. Gilgamesh explains that the sword Shiro has is actually a copy of Caliburn, the sword in the stone, and the model it's based on is Merodach, the sword of selection, which Gilgamesh produces now. Cutting Shiro down easily, Gilgamesh moves to pick up Saber, but again Shiro stands, declaring his love for Saber and refusal to back down. Producing Caliburn once more, Saber now joins him and together, like with Berserker, they slash into Gilgamesh, cutting through his armor and slashing his face. Enraged at the light wound, Gilgamesh chooses to retreat for now to the surprise of Shiro, and again to his surprise his body begins regenerating his overwhelmingly fatal wounds. Saber is pleased at this, as she finally understands now that the missing sheath to her sword that would have rendered her nigh invulnerable was actually inside Shiro this whole time, and that is what has helped him through this war. That night, Saber overlooks Shiro as he recovers his energy, and Shiro doubles down on his declaration of love for her, embracing her and kissing her, and Saber doesn't resist him. Instead, she accepts him and the two make love that night, restoring Saber's magical energy in the process. Traveling to the church, he doesn't find the priest, but instead stumbles into a ghastly room full of corpses barely kept alive, but mutilated and used for siphoning off magical energy. Eerily, he is greeted cheerfully by Kurei down here, exposing to Shiro that under his cold exterior is an unfeeling maniac. He reveals all the bodies here are the living remains of the people laid waste in the massive fire 10 years ago that almost killed Shiro, and had Shiro not been adopted, he would likely be one of the orphan bodies here too. He explains these are living batteries for the servant he's been keeping alive for 10 years, and he no longer needs them since Shiro and his servant will be killed soon. At this time, Shiro is impaled from behind, and Kurei reveals he is the master for Lancer. Elsewhere, Saber and Rin wonder where Shiro is, as Rin has not only figured out what Ilya actually is, but also that Lancer's original master was killed before she encountered him at the school, so someone else is controlling Lancer. Saber explains that masters who still have their command seals and servants after the Holy Grail disappear are still masters, and that can only mean Kurei, the only surviving master from the last war, is more than likely the lurking master hiding in plain sight. Saber then gets the mental alarm that Shiro's life is in danger and he's in the church, so she wastes no time dashing there. It appears that fatally wounding Shiro is bait for Saber coming here, and Kurei leaves Shiro for dead. As Saber kicks down the doors ready for battle, Lancer is there ready to fight Saber, as Kurei explains the Holy Grail can be called forth at full power when there's only one servant left and the rest have been killed, though it can still be summoned incompletely and still grant most wishes. Lancer questions this, as he was told, like all servants, that the Holy Grail will not appear until there is only one servant left, and Kurei points out that that is true for the Grail itself, but not for the vessel prepared to receive it. The vessel will continue to receive power as each servant falls until there is only one servant left and the Grail is summoned. This is verified by Saber, as both she and Archer survived the last war and the Grail still appeared. Dangling a dying Shiro in front of Saber, he asks Shiro what he really wants the Grail for, tempting him with the opportunity to redo the Great Fire from 10 years ago and live a normal life. However, even with his dying breath and the dozens of dying people he couldn't save, Shiro defiantly says he doesn't believe the path he's on is the wrong one, and he cannot stray from it for the people he's left behind. Saber's shaken, as her circumstances are so similar to his, yet she's betting everything to get the Grail and reverse the fate of the people she could not save in the past. Shiro's conviction gives her pause, and Kurei confronts that, telling Saber that if she kills Shiro, he will simply give her the Holy Grail. He reminds her Shiro is dying anyway, so it would be a mercy, and this is exactly why she became a servant, so it's a win-win for her. As she reflects, she realizes her longtime conviction was to be a king that always fought for her country, even if it meant losing everything, and was not to make everyone happy, and to that end, even though she did lose everything, it was not in a way that violated her oath as king or pride as a knight, so really she had everything she wanted. Her mind made up, she points her sword at Kurei, explaining she will not kill Shiro to obtain the Grail, and instead reaches for Shiro. His regeneration kicks in now, healing him quickly, and Kurei now admits he must now kill Shiro in order for his own wish to be granted. Saber demands to know where the vessel for the Grail is, and Kurei is shocked that they of all people don't know since they're the ones hiding it, and Gilgamesh now enters the scene, shocking everyone. As it turns out, Archer was also Kurei's servant in the last war, which bothers Lancer as it exposes Kurei's deceit to him. Even though Kurei was defeated by Kiritsugu, Kurei touched an incomplete Holy Grail and wished for a diversion to split up Saber and Shiro's father, causing the massive fire that ruined so many lives, including Shiro's. He explains the Grail is only full of darkness and curses, and when Saber destroyed the vessel it spilled onto Archer, thus corrupting him into the manner of today. The Grail is pure power, granting the result of the wish, not ensuring the means, so whatever you wish for will be granted, but through destruction. This breaks Saber's image of what the Grail was, and Kurei laughs, satisfied at the entertainment, and leaves Lancer and Gilgamesh to deal with Saber and Shiro. Saber grabs Shiro and rushes past the servants, and surprisingly, Lancer feigns attacking them to instead attack Gilgamesh, who parries. Lancer declares he won't follow Kurei's orders, but it's for himself and not to help Saber. Gilgamesh turns to deal with Lancer's betrayal as they both let Saber go, explaining he was going to kill Lancer anyway, as only one more servant needs to die for the Grail to appear, and he wasn't going to kill Saber. Outside, Saber restores magical energy to the sheath in Shiro's body, explaining he'll now heal up in a few hours, and reveals the missing sheath to the sword Excalibur is actually within Shiro now. While its disappearance is why King Arthur died, it's also why Shiro has miraculously survived this whole time. Possessing this relic is also why Saber was summoned specifically to Shiro, and it was likely a gift from Kiritsugu, who used it to summon Saber in the last war. As a reminder, Rin's injection of magical power is also how the sheath activated and saved him from Lancer initially too. Now with the enemy clear before them, Shiro announces his intention to destroy the Holy Grail, and Saber agrees with him, now accepting that Kiritsugu didn't betray her, as he knew she didn't need the Grail either. However, when they return home, they are horrified to find Rin crumpled over in blood, a victim of Kurei's sneak attack before they knew he was an enemy. She explains Kurei took Ilya, who was the vessel for the Holy Grail. More importantly, her heart is, for as it turns out, Magi are people born with magic circuits, but Ilya was a human made from a magic circuit. She also tells him Kurei would be heading to Ryudo Temple, as that's the best place to summon the Holy Grail. She then gives him her personal magic dagger, Azoth, to defeat Kurei with, as Kurei literally backstabbed her father with this dagger in the last war, and falls asleep, wounded but still alive. As she rests, Shiro prepares a strategy for the final battle, starting with returning the sheath, keeping him alive, to its proper owner. As they make their final preparations, they approach Ryudo Temple, seeing the dense convergence of mana and figuring Lancer must have fallen to Gilgamesh. By this time, Shiro's swordsmanship has grown through daily training and real combat to the point of almost equaling his teacher, Saber. As such, Shiro states their plan of only having to defeat one of the pair, either Kurei or Gilgamesh, so she'll go all out on Gilgamesh and he'll take on Kurei. Gilgamesh is there to greet them first, as the Holy Grail has now revealed itself, and dismisses Shiro to see Kurei waiting for him around the back. Stepping into the altar prepared by Kurei, Shiro sees Ilya strung up as the vessel for the Holy Grail. Surprisingly, the black mud that is the contents of the Grail has a mind of its own, and attacks Shiro with whip-like tentacles the moment he gets close. As Shiro struggles to approach Kurei, Kurei explains he is the most fit to receive the Grail since he loves humans the most, relishing the entertainment they provide especially when they struggle or suffer, and he'll especially enjoy getting his revenge on Kuritsugu's son. As both pairs clash, Shiro is overwhelmed but driven, as Kurei reveals how he also killed Kuritsugu with his cursed black mud too, and invokes the name Anjia Mainyu. A blinding light erupts that is noticed even by Saber, who is losing badly to Gilgamesh even with her sheath. Gilgamesh explains the light was a great curse from the Grail itself, and said to be able to curse everything in the world. With Saber totally beaten, he intends to marry her and keep her in this world by ingesting some of the black mud like he had, though Saber realizes while indeed a little insane, the only reason Gilgamesh did not totally get overtaken by the black mud of the Grail is because of his enormous ego. However, as she refuses, Gilgamesh's killer instinct comes out and he chooses to end Saber with a blast from his noble phantasm. Saber then counters with her own Caliburn, and while Excalibur cannot beat Ea in a clash, Saber then pulls out her trump card, the Sheath Avalon, and uses its ultimate magic protection to reflect the blast of Ea back onto Gilgamesh, followed through with her own Excalibur, blowing away the Hero King and defeating him totally. Meanwhile, Kurei is impressed Shiro has the willpower to stay alive and sane in the black mud, and in defiance, Shiro projects a perfect copy of the sheath he's had in his body almost his whole life, his trump card. Avalon immediately repels the evil curses binding him, and in the moment Kurei is dumbfounded at this turnabout, Shiro dashes at him with the dagger from Rin and drives it into the false priest. Triggering Rin's stored magic within the Azoth blade, the weapon explodes within Kurei, defeating the master at the same time his servant is defeated outside. As Shiro and Saber are now the true victors of this Holy Grail War, Shiro frees Ilya, and he is approached by Saber, who informs him she'll destroy the Grail now, but as a servant she cannot do so until Shiro burns his last command spell to make her do so. Shiro loves her, and still knows that she needs to do this herself so that she can end the contract with the Grail and die as a king, not as a servant. Giving the order, Saber destroys the Holy Grail in one fell swing, clearing away the malicious relic completely. As they watch the sunrise together, she turns to Shiro and confesses how she also loves him too, right before she disappears in the next instant. As 2 months pass and life returns to normal for Shiro, Ilya has now joined his normal house routine as she competes with Sakura for Shiro's favor. He still goes to school alongside Rin, who notes how oddly composed Shiro is for losing his love Saber. She then realizes he's come to peace with his heart, and for herself is happy with that. Moving forward to the new day, Shiro looks ahead, not soon to forget his memory of Saber. Elsewhere, King Arthur is victorious in the tragic retaking of the country that destroyed him. Wounded and dying, she asks her knight Bedivere to take her sword and return it to the Lady of the Lake, as her adventures so far still sit with her like a dream. Satisfied and without regret, Arturia, King of Knights, dies a legend to be spoken of in ages to come. Fate's Stay Night has enjoyed the success of selling over 250,000 copies worldwide. This recapitation was chosen by Sovereign. Thanks a lot for supporting the show as a patron, though sorry I couldn't get to all of the routes in one video. If you would like to support the show yourself, please follow the Patreon link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next battlefield.